Have you ever felt lost, unsure of which direction to take in life? Have you ever felt like you're fighting but nothing seems to work? It can be overwhelming. But I want you to know one thing. There is a bigger plan for your life. God's plan. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Believe me, no matter how hard the moment you're facing is, your victory is on the way. Often, life challenges us and forces us to let go of what we try so hard to control. And that's when God steps in. He asks you to let go, trust, and know that your victory isn't delayed, it's being prepared. If you've been feeling this weight in your heart, this message is for you. Don't leave before the end, because I have a special word that could change how you see the challenges in your life. Today, we will learn how trusting in God's plan can transform everything. And before we begin, I ask for your help in sharing this message. If this content makes sense to you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who also need to hear this. And if you are going through a tough time, leave your prayer request in the comments. We will be praying for you, and I am sure God is listening and working on your behalf. Trust in God's timing. God's timing often goes against our human logic. It's natural, when faced with adversity, to want immediate solutions. However, those who trust in God's plan know that everything happens at the right time. Patience is not just a virtue but an expression of trust in divine timing. A person who trusts in God's timing understands that, although the process may be slow, the spiritual victory that comes with it is eternal and unshakable. In moments of distress, it's essential to reflect on the importance of this waiting period. For example, imagine a farmer planting a seed. He doesn't reap the harvest immediately but knows that, in the right time, the plant will grow strong. Trusting in God's timing is like sailing through calm and stormy seas. Sometimes, the storm seems endless, but deep down, there is the certainty that the boat will not sink because God is in control. Even in moments of greatest doubt, it is crucial to remember that there is a divine purpose in every situation. Some people may feel tempted to abandon their plans when results take time to appear, but this is when unshakable faith makes all the difference. Those who keep their hope in God know that every wait comes with its reward. Many times, it's hard not to want to rush the plans and solve issues with our own hands. However, when we try to control everything, we risk deviating from the divine purpose. When someone decides to let go and trust, they open themselves up to allow blessings to flow naturally into their lives. For example, think of someone looking for a new job. They do their part, prepare, and send resumes, but they understand that the right moment for an opportunity to appear depends on something greater. Instead of despairing, they keep their faith, knowing that God is working in their favor, even if they don't see it right away. Waiting is also a way of refining our patience and character. When we go through tough times and resist the temptation to act impulsively, our trust in God strengthens. Those who trust in God's plan know that spiritual victory is not measured by immediate gains, but by the peace and hope that sustain us during the journey. Waiting doesn't mean inactivity, but an active posture of faith and prayer, daily seeking the strength needed to face challenges. It's like a student who studies tirelessly, knowing that the fruits of their effort will be reaped at the right time. Prayer plays a central role in this process of waiting. It not only connects us to God but also strengthens us internally to face difficulties with serenity. Praying is a way of demonstrating trust in God's timing, asking for direction and discernment to understand the divine purpose in every situation. Just like an athlete who trains tirelessly waiting for the day of competition, those who pray prepare their spirit for the challenges yet to come. Spiritual victory is reserved for those who maintain unshakable faith, even when the storm seems never-ending. During moments of waiting, doubts and uncertainties often arise. However, these doubts are opportunities for spiritual growth. Those who trust in God's timing learn to overcome these feelings with patience and perseverance. Each challenge faced is a lesson of overcoming with faith, where the person strengthens spiritually. When we set aside anxiety and surrender to the divine purpose, we realize we are not alone. God is always present, guiding and protecting us, just like a master guiding a disciple. He takes care of every detail of our journey. Those who wait on the Lord know that their strength will be renewed. As the verse says, "Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar like eagles." This is the kind of strength that drives us to keep going, even when everything seems difficult. It's not just about waiting passively, but remaining active in faith, trusting that God's timing will bring not only the answer but spiritual renewal. Just like the eagle that soars high and overcomes the storms, those who wait on the Lord will achieve spiritual victory in due time. Trusting in God's timing is not an easy task, but it is the only way to ensure that we are walking according to the divine plan. When we relinquish control and allow God to guide our steps, we experience peace that surpasses human understanding. This peace keeps us steady through life's storms, knowing that in the end, victory is certain. And thus, this trust in God's timing paves the way for the next teaching, which invites us to let go of our worries and trust in God's promises. Let go and trust. Life is full of uncertainties, and many times we cling to what we know out of fear of what's to come. However, true freedom comes when we learn to let go of what we cannot control and fully trust in God's promises. When someone feels burdened by material concerns, it's like carrying a load that drains their energy. Christian reflection teaches us that this burden can be laid aside when we decide to let go and trust in the divine plan. For example, a person facing financial difficulties may naturally feel pressured to resolve everything on their own. However, by trusting in God, they realize that their human effort, although important, is only part of a larger plan that He has for their life. Anxiety is something that slowly eats away at faith, making us believe we must solve everything ourselves. When we let go of these worries and trust that God has a purpose for each situation, we experience peace that surpasses human understanding. The act of letting go doesn't mean inactivity, but a conscious surrender into God's hands, knowing that He knows what is best. Think of someone trying to control every aspect of their life, whether at work or in personal relationships. By releasing that need for control, the person begins to see the doors that God is opening for them, even when everything seems to be falling apart. Trusting in God's promises is like walking on an invisible bridge over an abyss. You can't see what's ahead, but you know that with each step, the bridge will form beneath your feet. This is the kind of unshakable faith that transforms a person's life. It takes courage to release the bonds of fear and place control in God's hands. When a person does this, they allow themselves to experience true spiritual rest. The material concerns that often rob peace of mind begin to fade as all hope is placed in God. Just like someone releasing a balloon into the wind, trusting it will reach its destination, we must learn to let go of our fears and trust that God will guide us to victory. In many cases, worries become a form of idolatry, where we put more faith in our own abilities than in God's power. Letting go and trusting in divine promises means recognizing that there is a greater plan than we can comprehend. The Bible is full of examples of people who, by letting go of their worries, were blessed in unimaginable ways. Remember the story of Abraham, who, when called by God to sacrifice his son, let go of his doubts and fully trusted in the divine plan. His faith was rewarded, and God provided a different path. Similarly, when a person lets go of their worries, God offers solutions that often exceed what they could have imagined. There is great freedom in recognizing that no matter how much we do, the ultimate control is in God's hands. When we let go of our anxieties, we make space for God to manifest His blessings in our lives. For those who face daily battles, whether in the financial, emotional, or spiritual realm, the practice of letting go and trusting in God's promises is a continuous exercise of faith. In doing so, we begin to see God's hand at work in areas that once seemed lost to us. Someone who releases their worries about their financial future, for example, may begin to notice new growth opportunities that were beyond their limited perception. Trusting in God is a process of daily surrender. Each day is a new opportunity to let go of what binds us and trust more deeply in His plan. Often, when we try to force life to follow a specific path, we feel frustrated and exhausted. However, when we let go of the reins and allow God to lead, we realize that His guidance is always better than what we had planned. For example, think of someone who insists on following a career that brings them no satisfaction. By releasing that pressure and trusting in God, they may be led to a vocation that brings both personal and spiritual fulfillment. Letting go and trusting in God's promises does not mean giving up, but allowing Him to be the driver of our lives. Blessings begin to flow when we remove anxiety from the equation and allow God to work. It's like a river encountering obstacles along its course. Once the barriers are removed, it flows with greater strength and clarity. By letting go of our worries, we create space for God to bless us with miracles and victories that were beyond our comprehension. Thus, by trusting in God's plan, we open the way for a life of blessings, protection, and rewards, as we will see in the next teaching. The importance of prayer and faith. Prayer is the foundation of the spiritual life of anyone who desires to be in tune with God's plan. It is the bridge that connects us to the Creator, allowing our faith to be strengthened and bringing clarity in the midst of adversity. When someone dedicates themselves to the practice of prayer, they are not just repeating words but expressing trust in God. Prayer helps us set aside earthly concerns and focus on what truly matters, the divine purpose. Imagine someone who finds themselves in the midst of emotional chaos. By pausing, retreating, and praying, they are able to find peace and direction, knowing that God is hearing their cries and guiding them toward spiritual victory. Faith is the natural complement to prayer. Without faith, prayer becomes a mere repetition of words. But when someone prays with unshakable faith, they are telling God, "I trust in you regardless of what I see in front of me." This kind of trust is what moves mountains. There are many biblical examples of people who, through prayer and faith, witnessed miracles in their lives. Think of Daniel, who was thrown into the lion's den but maintained his faith in God. His prayer and trust not only saved him but also served as a testament to God's power. Likewise, those who pray with faith in the midst of difficulties can be certain that God is at work, even if the results are not yet visible. The practice of prayer is something that everyone can do, regardless of their situation. It's not about how much time you spend praying, but the sincerity with which you communicate with God. For those facing daily challenges, prayer is a valuable resource capable of renewing strength and bringing clarity amid chaos. For example, someone struggling to overcome an addiction can find in prayer the strength needed to resist temptation. By invoking God's help, this person is not only asking for assistance but also strengthening their faith that overcoming with faith is possible. In addition to being a moment of supplication, prayer is also a moment of gratitude. When a person prays, they should not only ask but also give thanks for the blessings already received and for those yet to come. This creates a positive cycle of faith and hope in God. Gratitude fuels trust in God's plan, reminding us of all the times He has helped us in the past. By acknowledging small daily victories, we strengthen our faith to believe that greater victories will also come at the right time. Thus, the person who prays with a grateful heart experiences an inner peace that the world cannot offer. Prayer is also a means of obtaining discernment. Many times, we don't know which path to take, and it is at that moment that prayer becomes crucial. When someone seeks God in prayer, asking for wisdom and direction, they are opening space for the Holy Spirit to guide their steps. For example, think of someone who needs to make an important decision about their career. By praying, they are not only asking for an answer but for the clarity to understand the divine purpose behind that decision. Prayer, therefore, is not just a request for help but a constant dialogue with God, where the person opens themselves to receive His instructions. The act of praying also reminds us of our dependence on God. Contrary to what the world preaches, true strength does not come from self-sufficiency but from the humility of recognizing that we need God at every moment of our lives. When someone prays, they acknowledge that no matter how much they strive, there are limits to what they can do alone. It is in this recognition that true spiritual victory emerges, for dependence on God makes us stronger. Just as a warrior prepares for battle, prayer prepares us for the challenges of life, bringing forth renewed faith and firm hope for the future. Those who maintain a constant prayer life, especially during times of adversity, experience an internal transformation. Anxiety and fear are replaced by trust and serenity. A clear example of this is the story of Hannah, who prayed incessantly for a child, and in her perseverance saw her prayer answered. Prayer and faith go hand in hand, and both are essential for overcoming any obstacle life may present. When we pray, we remind ourselves that God is in control, and this certainty gives us the strength to face the greatest challenges with courage and determination. Finally, it is important to remember that prayer is an ongoing invitation to deepen our relationship with God. As we pray and witness God's answers manifesting in our lives, our faith is strengthened, and our understanding of the divine purpose deepens. The more we pray, the closer we get to God's heart, and the more we understand how much He desires our good. And so, with constant prayer and unshakable faith, we prepare ourselves for the next teaching that will show us how God performs miracles and offers us protection. Miracles and protection. The manifestation of miracles in a person's life is directly linked to faith and trust in God's plan. When someone experiences a miracle, it's not just an isolated event but a reflection of divine mercy and care. Miracles are clear signs that God is always present, silently working behind the scenes, even when we don't notice. Throughout history, we see countless examples of miracles performed in moments of great need. However, these miracles are not just meant to impress. They are meant to reinforce our faith and connection with God. They remind us that even in the most difficult moments, divine protection is always by our side. God promises protection for His children, and this promise is fulfilled in ways we sometimes can't even understand. A person might face a difficult situation, such as illness or financial loss, but the miracle isn't necessarily the immediate resolution of the problem. Often, the miracle is the inner strength that God gives to face the challenge with courage and faith. A practical example of this can be seen in the life of someone who survives a serious illness and finds a new purpose in life after that experience. God's protection is not just physical but also emotional and spiritual, guiding each step of our journey. Those who maintain unshakable faith are able to see miracles in details that many would consider small or insignificant. A day of peace after a long period of stress, an unexpected opportunity that arises at a crucial moment, or a solution that appears for a problem that seemed unsolvable. All these are examples of miracles that can go unnoticed. The key is to keep your heart open to recognize that God is working, even in the most ordinary moments of daily life. For many, true spiritual victory isn't the miracle itself but the realization that it is present at every stage of life. Another important aspect of divine protection is the care for our loved ones. Many times, we ask God to protect those we love, especially when they face difficult situations. Faith reminds us that even when we're not present, God is taking care of those who are dear to us. Think of a mother who prays daily for her children. She knows she can't be with them all the time, but she trusts that God is always there, guiding and protecting their steps. Prayer is a powerful means of extending this divine protection not only over our lives but also over the lives of those we love. Miracles also teach us about humility. When we recognize that we are unable to solve everything on our own, we make room for God to act in our lives. True strength comes from this dependence on God, from placing in His hands what we cannot control. This surrender allows protection and miracles to flow naturally because we are in tune with the divine purpose. A person who fully trusts in God is like someone walking through unknown terrain, but they know they are being guided along the best path, even without seeing all the obstacles ahead. While miracles are powerful, it's important to remember that they are not the only sign of God's presence in our lives. Daily protection, peace amid chaos, and the strength to keep fighting are all reflections of divine presence. Those who walk in faith don't need to see grand miracles to believe, because trust in God is already, in itself, proof of His constant action. When someone faces a seemingly impossible problem and suddenly an unexpected solution appears, they realize that God was preparing the way all along. Divine protection often shields us from situations we couldn't even imagine. Perhaps something we deeply desired didn't happen, and later we realize it was a disguised blessing. This is the kind of miracle that protects us from invisible dangers, the ones only God can see. Just as a father cares for his child and prevents them from making dangerous decisions, God protects us in many ways, even when we don't immediately understand the reason for certain obstacles. By fully trusting in His plan, we are able to see beyond present circumstances and connect with the greatness of what He has prepared. Perseverance in difficult times. Perseverance is an essential virtue in the life of anyone who seeks to trust in God's plan. It is in times of difficulty that true faith is revealed, because it's easy to trust when everything is going well, but true spiritual victory arises when we maintain unshakable faith in the midst of adversity. Life, with all its uncertainties, constantly tests us, and perseverance is what keeps us steady on our journey. A clear example of this can be seen in the life of someone who, despite facing a series of setbacks, continues to believe that God has a purpose for their life. This person knows that difficulties are part of the growth process and that each challenge is an opportunity for spiritual strengthening. In moments of crisis, many people question why they are going through so many difficulties. However, it's important to remember that these difficulties are part of the divine purpose. They are not punishments but instruments that God uses to shape our character and prepare us for the blessings that are to come. Perseverance, in this sense, is not just about enduring difficulties but learning from them while always keeping hope in God. Think of someone who is trying to rebuild their life after a significant loss. By persevering and trusting in God's timing, this person will not only overcome adversity but also become stronger spiritually. Those who persevere through difficulties often become examples to others. They show that even in the darkest moments, faith can be an inexhaustible source of strength. When someone faces a prolonged battle, be it an illness, a financial problem, or a family conflict, and still remains firm in their faith, they become a living testimony of God's power. This kind of testimony is inspiring and reminds us that, no matter how deep the valley we are in, God is always by our side, guiding us through life's storms. However, perseverance does not mean ignoring pain or pretending that difficulties don't exist. On the contrary, it means facing these moments with courage, knowing that God is in control. When a person decides to persevere, they are making an active choice to trust in the divine plan, even when they don't understand what is happening. It's like a runner who, despite being tired and having aching muscles, continues the race because they know the prize is at the end of the journey. In the same way, those who trust in God keep moving forward, knowing that spiritual victory is guaranteed for those who don't give up. Perseverance is also deeply connected to faith. Without faith, perseverance becomes mere stubbornness. But when we persevere with faith, each step we take is an act of trust in God. For example, someone who is unemployed might feel tempted to give up looking for a job after many rejections. However, by persevering with faith, that person understands that God is preparing the right opportunity at the right time. This trust in God's timing transforms waiting into a period of preparation, where the person strengthens their faith and comes closer to the divine purpose. Difficulties play a fundamental role in teaching us to depend more on God. Often, when everything is going well, we tend to forget to seek God with the same intensity. But in times of crisis, our dependence on Him becomes clear, and that's when our faith is truly strengthened. Those who persevere in difficulties learn to trust more and more in God, knowing that no matter how challenging the circumstances, He never abandons us. It's like a tree that, when facing strong winds, develops deeper roots to withstand the storms. Finally, perseverance teaches us to have an eternal perspective. When we are in the middle of a difficulty, it's easy to focus only on the immediate problem. But those who trust in God's plan know that difficulties are temporary, while God's blessings are eternal. Just like a rough stone that needs to be polished to become a precious jewel, our difficulties shape us so we can reflect the grace of God in our lives. Perseverance, therefore, is the key to achieving a life of spiritual victory, where, despite the difficulties, we remain steadfast in our walk of faith. Waiting on the Lord. Waiting on the Lord is an act of deep trust and surrender. When a person decides to wait on God, they are affirming their belief that divine timing is perfect, regardless of the circumstances around them. The world pushes us to seek immediate results, but those who wait on the Lord know that often, the process is more important than the arrival itself. Just as a seed needs time to germinate and grow, our faith also needs time to mature. True spiritual victory comes to those who can wait for God's timing, maintaining hope and unshakable faith even when the results don't appear immediately. Waiting is not a passive stance. Those who wait on the Lord continue to act with faith, knowing that every effort is aligned with God's plan. It's like a farmer who, after planting his seed, continues to tend the soil, watering and protecting the plant even without seeing the fruits immediately. In this sense, waiting is active and full of purpose. Those who trust in God understand that every moment of waiting is an opportunity for spiritual growth, where strength is renewed and faith is fortified. The verse, "Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles," reminds us that waiting brings with it inner renewal, a strength that prepares us for what is to come. In moments of waiting, it's natural for doubts to arise. Life's uncertainties may lead us to question whether we are on the right path or if God is truly listening to us. However, it is in these moments that trust in God's plan must prevail. Waiting on the Lord is like being in a dark room without knowing when the light will turn on, but with the certainty that the light will come at the right time. This trust is what keeps us steady, knowing that God never abandons us. A practical example can be seen in the life of someone who is waiting for healing or for an answer to a specific prayer. Even without seeing the immediate solution, this person maintains their hope in God, believing that the answer will come at the right time. Waiting also teaches us about patience and perseverance. Often, we want things to happen quickly, but God uses the waiting period to shape our character. Those who wait on the Lord learn to trust more deeply because they realize they are not in control, but that the control is in God's hands. Think of someone who desires a significant change in their life, such as a new job opportunity or reconciliation in a relationship. By waiting on God's timing, that person not only receives the desired blessing but also matures spiritually, learning to depend more and more on the divine plan. Those who wait on the Lord also experience a peace that surpasses circumstances. While the world around them may be in chaos, the person who trusts in God finds tranquility because they know they are being guided by a greater purpose. This peace is one of the greatest blessings of waiting on the Lord because it gives us the certainty that, even when things seem out of control, God is working in our favor. An example of this can be seen in the life of someone facing a major financial crisis. Although the situation may seem impossible to resolve, the person who waits on the Lord remains calm, knowing that the solution is in God's hands. Moreover, waiting prepares us for the blessings that are to come. Often, God makes us wait because He is preparing us for something greater than we can imagine. The waiting process transforms us, strengthens us, and brings us closer to God. It's like an athlete who, before a major competition, goes through an intense period of training. Waiting is our spiritual training, where we learn to trust more and more in God's plan and rely less on our own strength. When the blessing finally arrives, we are ready to receive it with gratitude and a heart more prepared to serve the divine purpose. Finally, waiting on the Lord teaches us to live with a greater purpose. When we understand that God's timing is perfect, we let go of the anxiety and haste that so often dominate us. Instead of worrying about the future, we begin to live each day as an opportunity to trust more in God and draw closer to His plan. Those who wait on the Lord know that spiritual victory is not just about reaching a goal but about walking with God every step of the way. And this walk leads us to a life of peace, hope, and renewal, where each moment of waiting is an opportunity for growth. Now that you've made it this far, it's time to reflect on everything that has been said. Life is not easy, and challenges may seem insurmountable, but never forget, God has a plan for you. And that plan includes victory, even when everything seems lost. The question that remains is, are you willing to trust in this plan? To let go of the control that so often overwhelms you and give to God what you cannot resolve on your own? Transformation begins when you decide to apply this knowledge to your life. What would it be like if, from today, you chose to wait on God's timing with patience, knowing that He never fails? What would it be like if you fully trusted, let go of your worries, and believed that your victory is already on the way? Think about it. And if this content has helped you, I invite you to write in the comments what touched your heart the most or leave your prayer request. Remember, you are not alone. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Activate notifications to continue receiving words of faith and encouragement. Share this message with those who also need to hear it, and leave your like. Together, we will spread this word and help many lives.